Welcome to Psych with Sigmund, the podcast, where we dive into the fascinating world of psychology and explore the complexities of the human mind. I'm your host, Sigmund, and today we're going to talk about a concept that's both intriguing and intimidating: flooding. So, what is flooding? In everyday language, flooding refers to the process of exposing yourself to a situation or stimulus that triggers a strong emotional response, usually anxiety or fear. The goal of flooding is to help you become desensitized to this stimulus, reducing your emotional response over time. But why is this concept important in psychology? Flooding has its roots in behavioral therapy, specifically in the work of psychologists like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner. They discovered that by gradually exposing individuals to feared stimuli, they could help them overcome their phobias and anxieties. This concept emerged in the early 20th century and has since been refined and expanded upon by numerous researchers. Theoretical background. To understand flooding, we need to delve into some key psychological theories. One of the most relevant is classical conditioning, which proposes that our responses to stimuli can be learned through association. For example, if you're afraid of spiders, it's likely because you've associated them with a negative experience or outcome. Flooding works by reversing this process, helping you learn new associations and reducing your fear response. Another important theory is cognitive behavioral theory, which suggests that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected. By changing one aspect of this cycle, we can impact the others. In the case of flooding, we're targeting the behavioral component by exposing ourselves to feared stimuli, which in turn affects our thoughts and emotions. Research and evidence. Numerous studies have demonstrated the effectiveness of flooding in reducing anxiety and fear responses. One notable example is the work of psychologist Joseph Wolpe, who used flooding to treat patients with phobias. His research showed that by gradually exposing individuals to their feared stimuli, they could overcome their phobias and develop more adaptive coping strategies. More recent studies have built upon this foundation, exploring the neural mechanisms underlying flooding. For instance, research on brain plasticity has shown that repeated exposure to feared stimuli can lead to changes in the brain's structure and function, particularly in regions like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. These changes are thought to contribute to the reduction of fear and anxiety responses. Real-world applications. So, how can understanding flooding help you in your everyday life? Let's consider a practical example. Suppose you're afraid of public speaking. You avoid giving presentations or speaking up in meetings because the thought of it makes you anxious. By gradually exposing yourself to small audiences or low-stake speaking situations, you can learn to manage your anxiety and become more confident. This is essentially a form of self-directed flooding, where you're confronting your fears in a controlled and safe environment. Therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy and eye movement desensitization and reprocessing often incorporate elements of flooding. These therapies help individuals confront and process their traumatic experiences, reducing the intensity of their emotional responses over time. By working through these experiences in a safe and supportive environment, individuals can develop greater self-awareness, self-compassion, and emotional regulation. Another innovative application of flooding is virtual reality exposure therapy. Researchers have found that VR can be highly effective in reducing symptoms of anxiety and PTSD. By immersing individuals in simulated environments that trigger their feared responses, therapists can help them gradually become desensitized to these stimuli and develop more adaptive coping strategies. Conclusion. In conclusion, flooding is a complex and multifaceted concept that highlights the intricate relationships between our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. By understanding how flooding works, we can develop more effective treatments for anxiety disorders and other conditions. We can also learn to manage our own fears and anxieties, becoming more confident and resilient in the face of challenges. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking insight. Flooding reminds us that our minds are capable of both incredible strength and vulnerability. By acknowledging and working with these contradictions, we can cultivate greater self-awareness, compassion, and understanding. This is especially important in today's fast-paced world, where stress and anxiety are increasingly prevalent. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.